Hi folks, we're going to be changing the head gasket and the timing chain and tensioners on this Vauxhall Corsa C 2001 to 2006. So keep watching. Right, so we think the head gasket's gone on this Vauxhall Corsa. Let's just show you. We've got the telltale creamy white on the cam there, as you can see, and also on the cap. He's actually wiped this off. This has appeared again, so as you can see, not very good whatsoever. We're also losing fluid, water, and it's misfiring, and there's also lots of smoke or steam coming out the back, so very good chance that the head gasket is gone. So that's what we're going to have to do. Now, to do the head gasket, you're going to need a certain toolkit to lock your camshaft in place. And this is the toolkit here. This is for locking your camshaft, your camshafts in place. This is the tool for locking your crankshaft in place. You'll see that in action a little bit later. This is a little pin for holding the tensioner from the timing chain back. And that's also to lock your cam in place as well, so that you know that you're not definitely going to move if you was just changing the head gasket. Because you can actually just buy a head gasket and probably just do that. Not advisable really, because when you're taking the top of an engine down that's actually had a head gasket problem, you're going to be taking off other things like exhaust manifolds, inlet manifolds, stuff like that, the cover for the timing chain, all things that have got gaskets on. So you're best to buy a whole new kit, and while you've got that actually stripped down as well, you might as well actually change the timing chain and tensioners as well. We've bought a kit for about £120. Let me just show you what's involved in the kit. Okay. Oh, he's awake, look. There's our little baby grandson, by the way. He's just, how old is he, Sharon?
8 days. No, 9 days today.
9 days old he is, little baby James.
Oh dear.
And yeah, new addition to the family. And that makes us grandparents for the 6th time. So anyway, you take him in, Sharon. I've just got to show the people out what parts we need for this car. Right, so here we go. This is what's included in this kit. We've got the 2 tensioner blades there, the bottom sprocket, and the 2 top sprockets for the camshaft. A couple of spacers there, a couple of bolts there. We've got a brand new timing chain. We've got the timing chain running block. That's the top mounting block there that the timing chain runs on. We've got obviously the head gasket set and various gaskets involved there, exhaust and inlet, waterway one there as well. You also get a new tensioner mechanism, and it's already got the pin inserted there. I don't know if you can see that pin there. So that's a new one of them. And you also get a whole new set of head bolts as well. So that's the complete kit. So to get to that, we've got to strip quite a bit of this out and a bit of this down. We're going to drain the fluids out as well. We want the water and the oil drained out as well, because no doubt the oil is going to be impregnated anyway. So without any further ado, let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do is to take the battery off, disconnect the battery, so that we know we're basically safe anyway. So we're going to do that first, and I'm then going to unplug certain hoses, take the air filter off, the air filter box, and I'll put you on a time-lapse camera so you don't have to really watch me do all that, but you can see it in fast motion. If I need to tell you anything on the way, I will tell you. So we'll see you in a minute. Right, okay then, we've taken off the air box and also the hose that attached to the top of the carburetor. Now you probably saw in the time lapse I actually took the air box apart. Well, if you're doing it, you might as well check your air filter at the same time, so that's why I've actually done that. So what I'm going to do now is just take off this cover here, which is sometimes these just pull off, but the fixing lugs are broken on that one. And this is our coil pack here. I'm going to disconnect the coil pack, and that's connected at the end with a lead, and that just undoes by pulling that clip out there. And you've got 2 Torx bits on the top there, and again this is a T30 Torx bit on this to take off the rail, Again, just sort of 2 screws here. Just undo them. And it would happen to rain, wouldn't it? Typical. So that's them. That should just lift up now. There we go. There we go. There's our coil pack there. Right, okay then. So we've got to remove our inlet manifold and obviously our exhaust manifold off of the head, and that means that certain bits of plumbing have got to be removed. So looking down the side here, and there's a couple of heater hoses there. Let's have a look. So it looks like we're going to have to remove this heater hose here, which obviously bolts onto the head there, and just behind there we've got 2 bolts that hold some sort of solid pipe. I don't know whether you can see that there, that one there. That's got to be undone there, so we've got to take that off, and eventually I think we're going to need to take off this thing as well, this bracket here. So but I'm going to take off these hoses now and drain some water out, and then I'll try and undo the inlet manifold bolts along the back here so that we can just ease that back. So that's what I'm going to do now. Right, okay then, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 bolts that appear to hold the manifold on, and it seems to be rocking now, so let's just get you nearer. As you can see, these are the ones here, these bolts here. Look, there's one at either end, one there, and there's 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 just there, sort of thing. And when I first, these are 10mm, and when I first started turning these, they felt like they wanted to strip the thread, so just you have to persevere, and they did undo in the end. But that's them there. They don't actually pull out. Look, they can't seem to pull them out. But as you can see, the manifold appears to be loose now. I've undone that pipe there, as you can see. Oh, there we go. Look, it's coming off. Look, and would you credit it? It's blinking pouring down with rain as well now. A couple more hoses to disconnect here. There's one off the rocker cover there, and also one that goes over to there. So I'm just going to get a pair of pliers. I know there is a special tool you can get to do these, but I don't possess one. There we go, there's one off. And it's exactly the same with the one over here. That's off there. There we go, that's that one off there. I'm just going to get a big screwdriver, and without forcing anything, I'm going to take off a couple more hoses. It might be just tension on the hoses. There's a hose that comes along the top here into the water pump housing, which has got to come off anyway, so I'll just get the clips on there again. There we go, that's that hose off now. Right, okay. Again, things like wiring looms and sensors and things of there's a broken sensor there, I can see. That's broken, so I've got to be careful of that. Yeah, I don't know what that one is, so we might have to replace that. I'm not too sure. Probably a water temperature sensor, I would imagine. Another clip down there, probably best to take off. And that should be able to pull that out of the way then. Get that one off of there as well, look. There we go. That's pulled that right back out of the way now, there we go. So I'm happy with that. And as you can see, that should have now freed up our inlet manifold. I'll just wiggle that backwards. Right, well I did have one of them bolts there which was tight, and I've done that, and as you can probably see now, the manifold is pulled away from the head, and I can just jiggle that back. As you can see, we can see the studs down there now, look. There we go. There we go, so that's back now. So as you can see, there's nothing else there which is holding the head on. That pipe needs to be disconnected, as I showed you. This one here into there. So we've now got the inlet manifold removed. Right, okay, it's a new day now. We've lost the rain now, so let's get on and start stripping this down. Right, what I've actually done now is I've put a trolley jack underneath the sump just to hold the weight of the engine, because I'm actually going to have to remove, let me show you, this engine mount here, so that I can gain access to the timing chest and the water pump cover underneath there, which has all got to come off. So I'm going to undo these bolts now, remove this out of the way, then that allows me to undo the pulley, get the water pump off, undo the crank sprocket at the bottom, and so we're going to make a start on that now. Right, these here are E14 sockets, so I'm going to undo these now. Right, as you can see there now, engine's now sitting on the axle stand, bracket out. So all I'm going to do now is undo the rest of these bolts just to get everything else out of the way. Right, that just leaves the bolts actually on the bracket as well, which I'm going to try and remove now. Again, this is held on by 3 E14 bolts. One's underneath here, right in the middle. Can't fully withdraw that bolt. I've pulled it 3/4 of the way out. And these two, you have to loosen off when you do them by hand, because you can't do it with a socket on. Right, okay then, well, I've undone them 3 bolts, got that out of the way, but as you can see, the problem I'm coming up against, the belt's in the way. Now, you may be able to rock the engine, but I don't think so to get that out. So what I've got to do is to take the tension off of the tensioning pulley, which is down here, and mine's actually seized up. Right, there's a T18 socket down there, which is supposed to lever to compress the spring. I can't do that because it's seized up. So I've got this, which looks like a 13mm. Again, it's all under that bracket, I can't show you really. So I'm going to try and loosen that T13 or that 13mm nut there, and that's the pivot point for that adjuster. So I'm going to have to loosen that off and maybe give it a spray. So that's what I'm going to do now. Right, well, that nut is actually a 17mm, not a 13, for the mounting bracket for the adjuster. So I'm just going to try and crack that nut. And hopefully that will be able to free off the tensioner, so that I can just detension the belt to get it off. So unbelievable, why is that so tight? You should just be able to put that T18 on that adjuster nut on the wheel, push down and detension that belt. Well, I can't do it. Right, okay. Sometimes it calls for drastic measures. Right, let's go to the bottom bolt underneath the spring on that adjuster mechanism. Hopefully, there we go, just undo that bottom bolt for that tension mechanism. Yours may not be seized like mine, but obviously there's nothing I can do about that. Simple little things like these jobs should be the easy part, but it might be something you could come up against, I suppose. I've managed to undo that top bolt. I can't put it out. I'm now going back to the bottom bolt, the one under the spring, if I can. Right, it's not having it. So I've got to resort to plan C, and that is undo this top pulley. Again, easier said than blinking done, because everything's in the way. So this ain't necessarily the order that you'll be doing it in, because your detensioning mechanism might come straight off. Mine obviously hasn't, so it's given me all sorts of hassle. And then hopefully just a little prise along there. There we go. There we go. That's the alternative way to get it off. So there's my pulley off. Get that big bolt out of the bottom, which means I can then get the bracket out. What a pain that was. This timing belt, now remember to look at where the location is on this, so you can get the root. Not the timing belt, sorry, this drive belt, auxiliary drive belt. Get that out of the way. There's our mechanism, as we've had to undo. I can do that bottom screw off now. There we go, that's the bolt out, and there's the adjuster wheel mechanism. And this is the thing that was giving me so much hassle. Normally, you just put your thing on there, your socket on there, give it a twist, and this should compress the spring. Well, that wasn't happening in my case. And as you can see, the hassle I had to go to get this off. Always worth taking this off and checking this anyway, because you want to check that this bearing is running smooth. If that's graunchy in any way whatsoever, you want to be changing that, otherwise you've got to strip all this down again. So there you go, that's the adjuster mechanism, and I will have to be lubricating that up to find out why it was stuck. Right, I want to get this water pump off now, so I've got to disconnect these hoses to the thermostat. There we go. And there's one underneath as well. There we go. There we go, just let it clip right out of the way. Some of the most simplest jobs are the hardest. Getting off a bloody hose pipe. Right. Okay, that's that one off. Now what I'm going to do is to undo all these bolts now for the water pump. So let's get them undone. Top ones are shorter, so we've got the two long ones at the bottom so far. Top ones are shorter. There we go, look how corroded that was, look. That's what stopped me from pulling it out. Simple job. Which it is, there's another short one at the bottom. I think that's it. Oh no, there's another one there, look. Right, and again, look how corroded them bolts are, look. So these are the ones that could cost you hassle to get out. Right, I think that's it. Right, okay then, I've now got all the bolts out. I did miss a couple. So let's just try and leave that off now. There we go. Water's coming out. There we go. There we go. There it is. That Allen key at the bottom there, which I thought you needed to take out, you obviously didn't. It's just some sort of drain plug, as you can probably see there, look. So you haven't got to take that out. Right, okay then, so you're looking in total, it goes that way up. That way up actually. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 fixings on there by the looks of it. And that's where the thermostat sensor goes, obviously, the water sensor. This one, as you can see, has been broken before, so we might have to get a new sensor for that one, but that's the water pump. I would suggest that this one's probably been changed in the near past, because this looks like a pretty new one, so we're not going to probably need to replace this, which is a good thing, but we will replace that sensor. Right, okay then, we're getting to the stage now where we need to take the rocker cover off and also the timing chest cover. So I'm just going to undo these bolts now on the rocker cover, zip them off, and then we'll take it from there. Right, okay. Let's see if we can get this off. There we go. The typical white milky substance that you get when a head gasket's gone on the inside of the rocker cover there. Right, well, as you can probably see there, look at the cam on that. Look, it's only surface rust, I know, but it just shows you water and bare metal parts don't really mix. It all comes off, but as you can see, if you looked at them cams there, look, they look absolutely terrible, but they will clean off. It's only surface stuff, but the amount of water in here is terrible. So what we're going to do as well, we're going to have to take the head apart, because once you get this oily residue now, if you get that inside your actual hydraulic lifters as well, and if you've got a tappy cam, you need to take all this apart and actually clean the actual hydraulic lifters out, and we'll be doing that later on. But you may or may not need to do it depending on how bad your engine looks on the inside, and if you had a tappy engine anyway. So that's something you'll have to come across when you come to do it. There's the timing chain, as you can see. We've now got to undo all the bolts around the perimeter, get the timing chest cover off. But before we do that, I'm going to take the spark plug out. I'm going to do that because I need to also remove this bottom nut on the crankshaft down there, which is going to be very tight. We'll have to use the crank tool to lock the crank up before we actually undo that. Right, we're under the front of the car now, and I'm just having to undo this little tray at the bottom. This is with T25 Torx bits. There's one front and one back, and coming in the front footwell, wheel well on the driver's side, you've got one up there as well, which I'm going to have to undo to drop that tray. So I'm going to just do that now. Okay, that's it, we got it. We got it out. It's these silly little jobs that get on your nerves. Right, and that's out of the way now. And what that's done for us is to give us access, which I don't know whether you can see or not, and that is what we're going to put our crankshaft locking tool in. So we've got to undo this, and then when we line the cam up, the crankshaft up, we've got to insert our tool there to lock the crankshaft. Right, so you may or may not have that bottom protection cover on. As I say, it's taken me, it's a bit of a nuisance to get off. I've got it off now, but we're at the stage now, as I say, where we need to line up the crankshaft and camshaft and get the engine on top dead center. And what we're going to need to do that is obviously a big socket. Well, we need an E18 socket that's going to go on the bottom of the crank. That's going to allow us to turn the crank over so that we can actually get the crankshaft and the camshafts in the correct location. But first of all, I'm going to take the spark plug out, number 1 spark plug, which is the one at the front of the engine. Let's get in there and let's remove number 1 spark plug. Nice to see new plugs have been fitted by Jimmy. Right, and all we're going to do is just to drop a long screwdriver into the first hole, and all I'm going to do is to get our socket onto our crankshaft, and while we're turning the engine over, I'm looking for the spark plug to come up in the air as far as it can before it starts to go down again, just like it's done now. I'm just going to back it off a bit and then come fully clockwise again till it stops moving, which is about there. If we look at the back of the cams, I don't know whether you can see it or not, but there's a slot on each of the cams, and that slot is on the lower half of the cam. So in other words, although we can see them, we can't actually physically get our locking tool. If I show you, what we're looking for is this straight tool, which we should be able to place on the back here, and these 2 lugs there, one there and one there, should be fitting into those slots. Well, as you can see, it doesn't happen because the slots are at the bottom. So what that basically means is that we're 180 degrees out. So what that means is we need to turn the engine over again, going clockwise. So the piston is going down the screwdriver, as you can see. If we took all the spark plugs out, which probably would have been a better job, I wouldn't get no compression. So I'm going to do that now. Oh, I should have done that in the first place. Right, now if you can see plug number 4 there, I don't know if you can actually see that, it's full of water. So at least we've got an indication now as to where the head gasket may have gone. Look, full of water, plug number 4. Plug number 3, full of water and oil. There we go. Plug number 2, full of water and oil. Look at that, unbelievable. To turn the engine around in a clockwise direction, as you can see the screwdriver going down, it's coming back up again. Watch it. It's nearly at the top. Still coming up. Back there. And if we look at the back now, you just need to see that if I just tweak that just a little bit more, there we go. As you can see, that dropped in. So that means now that we're on top dead centre. And it's obviously in the right place because we can get the cam tool in now. So that's okay now. So what we need to do now is to take out that plug underneath and insert the crankshaft locking tool into the hole. That means then that this solid bar is going to stop the crank from turning. And we can then undo the big nut on the crankshaft pulley, which is going to be very tight. So I'm going to put that in now. A bit awkward to show you that. So I'll see you once I put it in. Right, well there's that plug that come out of that hole. So then I whacked that tool in. But I needed someone. So what Gary had to do was just literally move that back a little bit. Get the socket on the actual sprocket. And just nudge it slightly so that I could push that bar fully home. So that it fully engaged. Not actually have to tap it with a hammer. So ideally, in an ideal world, you'll be able to slide it in, but you may just have to nudge it backwards and forwards with a socket on the bottom sprocket there, on the bottom crankshaft there, just so that you can push that bar in. I don't know whether you can see or not. I've got my hand on it now, and that's now fully home. I couldn't fully push it in, I had to tap it in as well. So now that we've got that fully in, the crank is now locked. As you can see at the cam, although that don't slightly go in, it's not a tooth out or anything. It's literally just a hair's breadth there to stop me getting it in. But I'm happy that's in the correct location anyway. Yeah, that one's just gone in, look. It's literally just a... I could tap that and it will go in. It's that near. So I'm not too worried about that because we're going to be taking this off anyway. But we know that when we take the timing chain off now, after we've taken the timing chest off, as long as the cams go back into this location, in other words, with the slots on the top, instead of the slots being underneath, we know that the cams are going to go back in straight, so I'm happy with that. So I'm now going to get onto our big socket, which is going to be very, very tight at the bottom there. And for that, I've got a breaker bar, so let's try this. So on there, again, crank is locked now. Oh, as you can see how tight that is. So trying to do it with a socket is probably not going to be a job for you. You're going to probably need, as like what I've got here, a breaker bar. Now I'm only using a 3/8 drive one. You could probably do with a 1/2 inch, but it's all I've got. There we go. That's very tight. So hopefully you can see now that it's now hand tight. I should be able to do that bolt and ease it forward, as you can see there, look. Just easing it forward. Bit at a time either side. Because there's a seal there, you see, and there we go. Off it comes. So that's that off. And I can now undo the timing chest covers, and hopefully then the timing chest will come off. Right, so I've just taken the cardboard from what the new timing chain cover gasket come with, and I've just drawn around it, as you can probably see there, with all the holes. Because a lot of these screws I think are different lengths, so once we take a screw out we'll just put it on there so we know exactly where the screws go. So I'm going to do that now. Right, okay then, just to show you, there's all the bolts that come out of the timing chest cover. Just to note that there's 2 bigger bolts there as well. All the other ones are E10s and these 2 are E14s. Now if we look down at the timing chest cover area, we've also got a couple more bolts underneath from the sump, which you've got to undo as well. So just to let you know, and I've had to jack the engine up a little bit so that I can get to them. I can get to them from here, and I can't really show you that. So right, okay then, I just wanted to show you this. Do yourself a favour, take your wheel off and jack the car up and put it on an axle stand like I've done there, because you need to get to these bolts here. These are the four I was telling you about underneath. 1, 2, there's one at the end there which I could get out, and do you think I could get on that one for the life of me? If you come around this side you can see it, which is that one there. No, so get it undone by jacking the car up in the air as I've done. I should have done it in the first place, to be honest with you, before I started the job, and then you can get it from underneath. There we go. You couldn't do that from the top, believe me. I tried. And it just means that you've got more room to work. Those are the 4 bolts that have come out from underneath the sump. Right, one other thing I've realised and all, which I didn't see in any other vids, was that I've actually got to disconnect the air conditioning pump as well. And you've got a couple of bolts there, I can see one at the top there and one underneath, which fit directly onto the timing chest cover by the looks of it. So I'm going to have to remove them and all. I'll just show you there. That's the bottom one. There's our crankshaft locking tool. As you can see, it needs to go right in up to the hilt, by the way, and you need to just probably end up tapping that in like I had to with mine. So let's undo these bolts now. As I say, you've got one at the bottom here, and I think there's one at the top as well, so I'm going to crack them now. There we go, that's the bottom one out. Quite a long bolt. Right, okay, and there's one at the top here. Okay, that's the top one out. Both bolts are the same length. We should be able to prise off the timing chest cover. There we go, look at that. Out she comes. One timing chest cover out. Let's put that to one side. Right, now as you can see now, we've got full access to our timing chain and the tensioner mechanism. So don't forget, if you've got a air conditioning pump on yours, you do have to take them 2 bolts out that fix also through the timing chest cover as well. So all I'm going to do now is I'm going to undo the 2 sprockets here, and I'm not going to rely on the locking tool to keep them in place, because as I say, what can happen is when people have undone these in the past, it actually bends or distorts that tool. So on the back of the cams there, you've got provision to put a large spanner, so I'll be holding back with a sort of a large spanner on the back there while I'm undoing them. Okay, right, now I've loosened them sprockets there. As you can see, I held back so that I didn't actually put any force or tension on the actual cam chain or the cams at all. I can get this pin, which is the one that come out of the kit, and as you can probably see the tensioner here, I can push it in and out there, look. And there we go, by putting the pin in there, I've now taken the tension, as you can probably see there, off of the actual tensioners now. And that means now that I can undo these 2 top cam bolts and bring everything off. And then remove the actual timing chain. And then just undo the tensioner arms. And you should be able to take the timing chain out. And then the final tensioner blade can then come off. So that is the complete front of the engine now, stripped down. There you go. So all I've got to do now is to remove the heat shield on the exhaust manifold and just undo the exhaust manifold and then we're ready to actually unbolt the head and take the head off. So I'm going to have a little clean up and a little tidy up, and then that's what we're going to be doing next. Right, so I've just unplugged the O2 sensor there, as you can probably see, which goes to the centre of the exhaust manifold. So that's out of the way. I may have to take these two brackets off here, yeah, I think that's the case. And I've also got to undo these two covers before I can get to the exhaust manifold. So that's what I'm going to do now. Right, so these are E10 bolts, by the way, so I'm just undoing them. They come up nice and easy, makes a change. And there may be one more down the front here. No, there is. I think there was, but it's not on there, so I'm going to probably have to take off this bracket here as well. Yeah, I'm going to have to undo that bracket as well, which appears to be an E12. As I'm going to be taking the cams out, we don't really need that in there anymore, because the head's going to be needing a service, because I'm going to be measuring it up as well to find out if it's warped. I don't think it overheated, but having water in all three cylinders is obviously some sort of catastrophic fail with the head gasket, or the head could be warped, which I hope it ain't. There we go. Lift that over our O2 sensor, and that now reveals all our exhaust manifold bolts, which I'm going to give a good squirt, and then we'll just release that, and then that's the final stage then, hopefully, before we can take the head off. I'm not going to remove this item. I think that can come off with the head, so we'll see in a minute anyway, once I've undone these. Right, I've given them a good squirt now, and sod's law, this has obviously been off before. That nut there was rounded. These are 10mm, and I started undoing that first one with a 10mm socket, and it span straight away, so I didn't persevere anymore. As you can see, these are two 10mm sockets. That's the one I started with first of all, which has got a 16 point on it, and that started to slip. If you've got a nut which is starting to slip, or it does slip, go straight to a 10mm, go straight to an 8-sided socket, because you've got more surface area and a better chance of getting your actual nut off. So these are what you want, 8-sided sockets as opposed to a 16, when you're dealing with a nut that is possibly going to cause you trouble. And as I say, this has been off before, because if you have a look at the last bolt down there, someone's actually changed that one, and it's a 13mm, so this has been off before. I would actually go as far as to say as it's had a new timing chain on it before, and it's also had a new water pump within its lifetime. So anyway, I'm just going to carry off now. I've undone all these nuts now, cracked them all off. I'm going to take them off and just lever it forward, and then all we'll be left with then is the head bolts. Right, that's all the bolts out now. Let's just see if we can pull that forward. There we go. That's all three of the head. All the studs are free from the head, so we've got no worries about the head pulling up now. So all I've got to do now is undo the head bolts in sequence, and hopefully then we can lift the head off and see where our problem is. Right, so I'm just going to go and crack all these head bolts now in a circular order. Right, that's all the head bolts off. Now it's going to become the moment of truth when we try and lift the head off. Hopefully I haven't got to take this end thing off from the water system, or it's going to take a little bit longer. So let's try and get it off. There we go. That's the underside of the head, look.
Not too bad.
Bit of water in there, but as you can see there, look, from 3 of the pots have got water in. Hey? 4, 3 and number 2, so Right, so as you can probably see here, this is the head gasket as it was laid on the top. When we turn it over, we can quite clearly see that it's actually rotted away in places there. And there's a very good chance, these are the oil ways here, that corrosion is actually, look how it's broken through there, look. And it's obviously creeping in. You see water underneath there, look, see? Little globs of water, so water's obviously been penetrating via the rust into the oil ways. So it definitely looks like it's a head gasket gone. But we didn't really notice it while it was that way up. But when we turned it over, we can quite clearly see that this head gasket there is actually failed. Look at the combustion ring there, look. You see how weathered and thin that is there, look. So that looks like our problem, and that's where we had the most water on this end of the engine as well. So definitely say that it's a head gasket gone, and that's probably been going like this for quite a while. As you can see, look, there's water underneath there, look. Well, that's good to find anyway. So we'll call this the end to video number 1, and in the next video we'll have a look at cleaning everything up, because we've got to strip the head down, obviously, take other bits off, ancillary bits and all that, and we're going to take the hydraulic tappets out as well, because this did have a slightly tappy engine, nothing to do with the timing chain. So we'll strip them down, I'll show you how to clean them as well, and then you'll have a perfectly quiet engine. So that's it for this video, part 1. Hope you enjoyed it, hope you got something out of it, and we'll see you again in part 2. And until then, bye for now.